guys, but this is Sunday morning. I would like to brief about red learning before I know you guys are eagerly waiting to start the session, but before we start, I'll just brief you about red learning. If someone is new to red or not been with red learning, I'd just like to take a few minutes to brief about red learning and then we can start with the seminar. I'm audible to all, right?
Yes.
Louder.
So, as we all know, we are an ISO and KSGA accredited training institute located in Dubai. We're just parallel to Sheikh Zayed Road. We've been in this industry from past 10 to 15 years. Red Learning as Red Group, it's been 8 years, but with experience, it's more than 10 years in this industry. We're proud to announce that we've also been the premium partners with PMI. I know a couple of PMI chapter guys are here. A warm welcome to all of you. We've been known for our corporate trainings, our public trainings. We started with project management trainings, but now we have more than 20 to 30 training programs on our campus. When it comes to training, one thing we don't compromise is quality. We ensure that our trainers, whoever been providing this training, has gone through that entire certification journey, has the industry experience as well as the certification experience. So on the quality, there's no compromise. We ensure our students get the best. Before COVID, it was only classroom sessions which were more focused towards it. But now, post-COVID, our systems were already in place, so we ensured that our training certifications has been reached out to different countries. So now, not only classroom, but we are there on the online platform through our learning management system. We ensure our training is being reached out to different continents, different countries. Now business partnered with more than 400 countries. A couple of our accreditations without which the certification journey becomes difficult. Now, started with PMI. PMI, we have been premium partners. We have been also associated with Council for Six Sigma for our Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and Black Belt certifications. We've been associated with Qualify recently for our diploma programs. So now you can also enter to the Diploma League, which is a level 7 certification, which helps you. It is a UK certification body, unlike US. We've been associated and delivering FIDIC training programs, which we got a very well response when it comes to FIDIC conditions of contract. NCMA, again for CPCM certification. So these are a couple of accreditation bodies which Red Learning has been associated with, where to complete your certification journey. As mentioned earlier, our training certifications are divided into project management, quality, contracts management, and supply chain management. So these are our public domains or public training programs which has been offered. Recently, we've been witnessing a lot of requests on leadership skills, project management, Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt, negotiation skills, cost control training. Now these are our corporate certifications or corporate area where we customize the training program based on the requirement what your company needs. So it can be a face-to-face session or an online session. So these are a couple of our training programs which has been offered to the corporate domain. Our recent corporate plans, right in the first year of operations, we have been the official training partners with Expo 2020 for the project management training program. We've been associated with SEHA, EGA for Six Sigma and PMP certifications, with Mikoda for cost control and contract management. We just returned from Bahrain with Landmark Group. We had a certification training program on project management. So these are a couple of our corporate training programs. Some of our corporate trainings which has been conducted recently. I know you guys are waiting for the seminar to start, but before we start, I would like to introduce Mr. Najmul Hussain. I know everyone might be aware of him, but being in this industry, Mr. Najmul has been experienced with more than 20 years in the project management and program management domain. Worked with Dubai South as projects director, being the initiator and you can say co-founder, vice president with PMI UAE chapter to initiate the PMP certification in UAE. have been certified with more than 5 to 10 certifications. He's been also the only one authorized trainer for CP in UAE. So let me welcome Mr. Najmul. He would be your speaker for today.
Thank you. All right. Am I audible at the back?
Yes.
Or do you need the mic?
No, you don't.
Yeah, I don't need. You know it. All right. So welcome everyone on a Sunday morning. I don't know how much more boring a Sunday is going to get. I mean, if you have nothing to do on a Sunday morning and you're sitting here with me, well, good luck to you. But I'm happy to see all of you. I'm very pleased. I think it's a good journey to talk about. It's a great certificate to come to the market. I think PMI has done something finally right. I think they've introduced a pure certification for construction. And it gives me great pleasure that to announce that we are probably one of the few in the world who are working very closely with PMI on this certificate. So gives me the opportunity to talk about it, gives me the opportunity to refresh it, bring it across to you in probably the right manner that it should have always been. I think when we talk about any certificate, when we talk about any business, it becomes important for us to understand why the certification was introduced. I think it's important to reflect the need for change. It's important to understand why PMI has brought about this certification. I think before we go into the details of it, I'd like to introduce to you the report that's come out from PMI, which is called the Pulse of the Profession Report 2024. And the certificate was initiated in 2023. Obviously, the certificate has gone through a lot of change over the last 1 year because of the fact that PMI was also trying to research, and they introduced the certificate. They kind of realized that probably it does not work the way they want it to work, so they brought up, and I'll obviously talk to you about the details of it in a few minutes. But I'd like to start off this presentation with the understanding of why we have to bring this in. As you know, the PMP certificate is the gold standard for project management around the world. Obviously, we are talking professional certification, so please don't compare it with academic programs. Don't try and compare it. We're talking professional certifications, and PMI obviously came up with PMP, and over the last few years, there has been a need for change in the PMP certificate. For those who attended PMP with me over the last 2 years, especially understand, ever since the 6th edition was released, there's been a bit more focus on agile concepts and agility concepts. Obviously, because other industries like IT, banking, they kind of came through and they kind of adopted the PMI language, which was purely dominated by construction, oil and gas, for almost 30 to 40 years. And then suddenly COVID happened, the mindset started to change, people started accepting the work from home, work-life balance, which construction never believed in anyway, but we started to get into that thought process as well. So organically the world has changed. We have started to slowly move away from the industrial revolution. We've started to accept the knowledge generation. The Gen Zs are probably someone that we need to learn to work with. So I guess somewhere down the line, the need for change has been understood. But in looking at that concept, we also realized that the PMP certificate has diluted a bit because now it's become much more generic in nature. It addresses every community. It takes care of anybody and everybody who wants to learn project management. And then PMI started to work with a lot of agile certifications over the last 2 to 3 years. So they brought in and they partnered with Disciplined Agile. They purchased Disciplined Agile projects and products, and they released a course of certifications that purely talk and address agile language. So PMI has started to create 2 streams. So they started to address PMP as the foundation and then start to work with a bunch of agile certifications. And then they've created another stream for construction certifications. So you have now got risk management, scheduling professional, you have the CP as the foundation, addressed to your area of work. Obviously, once the foundations has been passed. But the last few years has given us a serious challenge in the way we think, and I'd like to address that challenge first. When we talk about the pulse of the profession ever since COVID, especially 2022, 2023, we understand that there is a serious gap between expectations and reality. We understand that something has changed, and what has been realized is that what has changed is organizational, operational capability. Meaning a lot of products and services that we used to work with back in 2020s, 2015s have now become obsolete. We don't use them anymore. A completely new set of product lines have come into picture. And that includes the construction industry. If you think about innovation in the construction industry, I don't think we've innovated anything. We still use cement. I think we still are in that phase. I think the only innovation in the construction industry, I think in the last 10, 15 years is BIM. I don't think there's anything else that we have really worked on.
In terms of material, are we talking, or in terms of technology?
Innovation, technology, materials, I would not find more than 5 if you look at hand-picked items. But when you look at other sectors, banking, IT, they've gone through transformation, fintech, edtech. These industries have gone through complete transformations. We are still brick and mortar, as to speak. The only industry below us is agriculture. I think we are number 2. Number 1 is still, we are at least not the lowest. We are still, Mother Earth is Mother Earth, and that's pretty much where we stand. But let's talk about the next few things. Let's talk about where the industry is going. The voice of the customer has now become prime. There is a gap between what is done and what is the expectations. And now every company in the construction industry is trying to understand the voice of the customer. Like, what does the customer really need? How do we put it across? Earlier it was not like that. We never were focused on the voice of the customer. But now lately, I think ever since we've started to go beyond the COVID stages, I think the voice of the customer has started to take a lot of importance. And when we talk about how do we handle it, I think there are a few, and I'm really hoping that if you get your hands on to the Pulse of the Profession report, it's on the PMI website, it's a freely downloadable document. Please read it. Please understand it. Why? Because that allows you to understand the way that the market has looked at it. We realized, and this is the situation of the hour, I think the economy of the world is not looking that great, except for a few pockets. I think we are growing at about 4%, best case situation. Countries like India, maybe 6-7%, maybe China has gone down quite a lot. So there is a modest outlook in the economy, which means that our margins are very, very low. Construction margins have always been low, and that's why when I was listening to one of the professors at one of the universities, and he was saying the reason why we don't innovate is because we are working too hard. We pick up a lot of work because our profit margins are very, very less. So what we organically do is we don't spend time in talent management, talent retention. We don't spend time there because we are working at wafer thin profit margins. And I think that's one thing that the construction industry has always lived on. I mean, this is what we have always understood. So I think when we look at the forecast going forward, it looks a bit, we don't understand. Probably, Middle East looks a little different. Saudi market's opening up, at least for the construction industry. There is good work there. The Dubai cycle and the UAE cycle is still on an upward front, but when you look at the latest stats, it probably will start dipping around 2025 beginning. So we understand where the trends are. But when we look at the shift in customer expectations, that has now started to happen. Even in the construction industry, your clients, your principal contractors, they have started to kind of understand the shifts in the customer business. We also recognize the fact that, not only the shift in the customer business, but there's a shift in the customer demands. So it's not just expectations, it's demands that the customers have put across that, no, this is the way we want things, And I'm sure that you felt the change over the last 2 to 3 years because the options are available to them, when it comes to design, when it comes to front-end planning, that was our core. Front-end planning was something that we lived on, but now, past COVID, we do realize that we can take up jobs where, the scope of work does not have to be so rigid, especially when we talk about, automation systems within construction. We used to be so lump sum, even on automation products. Even on a BMS, we used to be, lump sum. And now I think slowly the expectations have changed that we don't need such rigid thought processes when it comes to certain packages within our construction industry. So I think there's been a shift, and I guess over the last 2022 onwards, there has been a drastic shift in customer thought process, and every organization is now bringing their thought process down to the customer. In fact, all strategies of the companies are created with what the customer needs. I don't know if you listen to Alabar, his videos have become pretty famous post the DIPMF. And he was saying, MR is really, really built on 4 product lines. It's just 4 product lines. So they were the ones who said, oh, we think the market needs 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms and villas. We think you need this product. So we will make the product and you buy the product. So earlier, that was the logic. We know what you want, so we will prepare it and then you take it forward. But now it's no. The customer says, this is what we want. If you can give it to us, or we're going somewhere else. So I think that's the shift. So if you don't listen to what the customer says, if you do not understand the voice of the customer, your products are not selling. And that goes down to technical specifications as well. So I think that's fundamentally been the shift. And now you can see the big boys, the MRs, the Macs, the infrastructure guys, they are all planning their products based on not what they think, but based on the voice of the customer. And I think that's the first shift that has happened post the last few years. And I keep repeating this in every forum that I go. If you don't accept this statement, you are putting your business in trouble. Don't take your strategy and implement it. Don't create products that you think that is yours and that will work. Listen to the customer, what they think, and create your products accordingly. Do not focus on outputs, focus on outcomes. That is the new language coming up. So, in the last few years, we understand that COVID, as disastrous as it was, has created a huge opportunity in the construction industry. In fact, what COVID has done is that it has created a serious government investment. So we are looking at almost 10 trillion in reconstruction funds all across the world. And you can see it and you can feel it, at least in the Middle East. So you are looking at massive development coming up because of the pandemic crisis. The product lines have changed, the market has changed, and we do understand that this is more than 3 times the investment that you had in the 2008-2009 financial crisis. So what is being invested is approximately 3 times more than what we experienced in 2009. So I think the understanding is there, and this is the world projection when it comes to, approximately emerging markets. We're looking at 5% since 2022. So we're looking at some growth projections which are good. Global economy, 4.4 average, but emerging markets where UAE is, we're looking at 5, maybe 6%. I'd like to start off with an understanding of the project economy from PMI. Please understand that this content is not mine, it is taken from the Pulse of the Profession report. So whatever content you see is a PMI-driven thought process, and this is the state of the economy, or let's say where the investments are, what the investments are, based on what PMI's report says.
we adapt to new ways of working and prepare for future disruption, organizations will see a growing need for skilled project managers. The PMI 2022 Jobs Report showcases emerging sectors and trending industries where project leaders can find opportunities to drive growth and innovation in every region of the globe. Countries in the Asia-Pacific region expect their economies to grow in 2022. Meanwhile, talent is in high demand in many countries and industries. While China's economy has experienced a slight slowdown, a number of factors should contribute to increased project activity, including consumer spending increases and China's energy transition plan. Supply chain disruption and rising energy prices, along with rapid digitalization, are driving an increased demand for project professionals in Europe, especially in IT. The current conflict in the region will have long-term humanitarian and economic consequences that will require response. There has been a spike in demand throughout Latin America for project managers, particularly in the technology and manufacturing sectors. Rebounding oil pricing, government investment in high-profile mega projects, and international events like Expo 2020 Dubai and the 2022 FIFA World Cup promise to reinvigorate the region's economy and need for project managers. The Great Resignation and supply chain problems have put job seekers in high demand in the US and Canada as companies look toward automation and digitization to protect against future disruption. Despite the pandemic, the global demand for products manufactured in South Asia has continued to increase over the past 2 years. As a result, companies are willing to invest more in project managers with strong innovation and leadership skills. Nearly a third of global aid, roughly $32 billion, is spent in Africa, and that's fueling new development jobs across the region, up to 45% of which will need project talent. The demand for project talent is high around the world. Are you ready to take your career to the next level?
So I guess we're in the right place, at least as far as construction is concerned. So I guess you understand that there's only two continents or two areas that you will find investment in construction. One is Africa, the other one is Middle East, and this is where you will find most of your investments and developments. Great to know that, and I guess this allows us to think more about what we are trying to look at. But going back to our presentations on what exactly we think is happening around the world, I think what PMI is trying to say is that 88% of all organizations really believe that the most important part of their organization is the ability of the organization to implement their strategy or to create a strategy that believes that they work. So there is a lot of boardroom meetings, there's a lot of boardroom discussions that talks about the way that strategies must be formulated, because that is the most important document, that is the most important challenge that the company undertakes. We all understand that. But the challenge is that out of the 88% of organizations for whom strategy is so important, 61% of the very same organizations actually fail in the implementation of their own strategies. That's a very serious number. So only 17% of organizations actually are able to implement their own strategy. Now, what could be the reasons? I mean, we always blame culture first. We say, okay, culture is the first thing, but there are many other reasons that really hurt organizations. And this is where it's coming from. If you look at a contracting company, they want to be tier one. They want to go up the levels. They want to, take up certain jobs. They want to look at certain breakthroughs in the market, but they're not able to put it together. They're not able to, break the market. And why is that? So PMI has done massive research to understand what exactly these organizations face. What are the challenges? Because, many organizations believe that strategic implementation is at the top level. It has to come from the top. When we look at the Middle East, this is the importance, given the environments that we are in, given the fact that Middle East is such a project-driven business, only 33% of the business understands the value and importance of project management. And that is not a good number when you think about it. Given the fact that we're driven by bigger economies of scale like oil and gas and construction, the maturity level and the understanding of project management is only at 33%. So you can imagine industries like healthcare. You can imagine industries like supply chain. You can, so the maturity levels in those industries are still weaker than us. And when you translate this to numbers, this is the current state of the economy, construction included. We waste 11% of our, so your cost variance and schedule variance is guaranteed to be 11%. So 1 billion investment gets a loss of 109 million. This is as per 2023 reports. I don't know the 2024, but you might want to check it out. And that's a serious number, especially when the growth of the economy is between 5 to 6% or 4 to 5%, and then you have a wastage of almost 11%, and that's really hurting your profits. So basically we are running on gas, not fuel. We're just surviving through. We aren't really growing. And if you don't grow, you don't mature, you don't invest. So I guess when we talk about the investment, I'd like to bring up some elements of the report that shows regional variances. When we talk about project outcomes, when we look at the MENA region, we're looking at 51% of all projects getting completed within time, 61 of all projects completed within budget. We have about 28% failed growth, which is kind of the average. We are much better than the global margins of 35. Scope creep is globally 34%, and we are at 25. Failures, it's about 12% average, we are at 13. So we are almost pretty much at the global averages when it comes to the numbers that you see here. When we look at outcomes by industry, I think we are looking good globally. At 73%, we are at 74%. Within budgets and time, we are at about 60 to 57%. We are having pretty much the global average of failures, and obviously scope creep is much lesser as compared to the other industries. But when you compare it to other industries, I think we are pretty much there and thereabouts, and I guess this is important because some industries like South Asia are driven heavily by IT. India is driven heavily by IT. Now India is coming into a lot of infrastructure development, but you have IT sector taking over. So the numbers that you see from South Asia especially are driven by pure IT industries. It's not really driven by construction, but this is the global average in terms of project outcomes. And I think we should be, some way or the other, we should be proud that we are representing global averages, at least in the industries that we come from. So that's a great thing. And obviously, this allows us to think beyond the usual. It allows us to look beyond the usual and look into the way we look at things. But these are the big changes coming into the construction industry. And this is surprising. When I was reading the report and I was saying, really, do you think these things are going to happen in our industry? But this is what the report says. This is what the report says, that the big changes that's coming in is number one, digital transformation in the construction industry. I think that is coming up. There is going to be investment into our digital elements. We're going to see 68% of all companies investing in digital transformation. I think we are looking at maturity at 49%. So obviously better than the averages, but still very low in the change management index. But if you take the top 10 changes that you can expect in your industry, you can look at strategy changes, you can look at adaptability, you can look at efficiency, you can look at diversity, you can look at talent acquisition and management. So I think some changes are probably just common sense. We understand that we can't do without it, but some you must look at it and say, things like the innovation approach, that companies are ready to put money into innovation now. I mean, our industry would be the last to put money into innovation. And now the mindset has changed that, you're probably looking at innovation, we would and we want to bring in those areas. So I think we are looking at certain changes coming up. Have a look at this. Obviously, it looks good. It looks aligned to global trends. So the industry is moving within what the global trends are showing, and it looks good as far as the industry is concerned. But what we have tried to understand is that within the construction industry, there are some organizations that are doing very well, and there are some organizations that are not doing very well. So there's a big gap between high performers and low performers. And not only what's coming up, but we've also tried to understand what is it that the big organizations are doing, what is it that they are doing that the smaller organizations are not doing, or the low performing organizations are not doing. And there's been an extensive study to understand what exactly it is that makes a difference between a high performing organization and a low performing organization. And this is what we understood. We understood that process maturity is number one. I think process maturity is where certain organizations are focused on, so that is something that they're looking at heavily. So process maturity is something that every organization wants to look at. Process maturity is something that they want to invest in. The next one where high performing organizations look at is talent management. And this is something that they've invested. So when you compare it to where it lies in the top index, it's probably last in the top index. But the changes is that organizations that are high performing focus on talent management. The high performing organizations are changing their priorities, and we'll talk about that. And high performing organizations, the best thing that they've done is they've created their new ways of working. So they've already gone into a completely different mindset. They've started to look at new ways of working. When we talk about process management and process elements, maturity in processes, establishing a PMO is one of them. But if you look at it, look at the gap between high performing organizations and low performing organizations. Everybody has a PMO. So it's like, that's a given. We understand that we should have something. But look at the maturity of project management. You're looking at a serious gap, even though they have standardized practices, and look at the gap between standardized practices in an organization. High performing organizations versus there's a gap of 30% between these organizations. When you look at maturity in project management, it's quite a drastic gap. And then we're looking at, I don't even want to talk about programs and portfolios. So I think as much as we understand it, the gap between a high performing organization and low performing organization when it comes to process maturity is very, very high. When we talk about talent, this is where again the gap comes in. You're looking at performance management, learning and development, workforce planning. So even though the gap is not much, but there is still a substantial number. Mentoring is an area of focus that they are not looking at. Probably they're not looking at, compensation. There's a gap there. So these do matter when it comes to talent management. When we talk about changing priorities, I think it's all about innovation, digital solutions, customer-centric. I think the biggest change is that high-performing organizations are extremely focused on what the customer says. When we talk about project management, again, you're looking at a gap right at the bottom. When we talk about next-gen project managers, the gap exists. Innovation, the gap exists. And the biggest challenge is their acceptance to change, their cultural acceptance to change. The most difficult part for any organization is their ability to accept change. And this is happening, this we already know, we already are aware of it, but then when you look at the difference between high-performing organizations and low-performing organizations, we find that that is probably the most drastic difference between these two organizations. People are now looking at new ways of working. For those who attended the DIPMF, one of the best lines I heard in DIPMF was, AI is never going to take your jobs. somebody said that, I think it was Google, one of the guys from Google, he said, it's never AI that's gonna take your job. AI does not have the capacity to take your job. What's gonna take your job is people who know AI. So people who know AI are gonna take the jobs of people who don't know AI. And the biggest recommendation from Google that day was learn generative AI. It is non-negotiable given the circumstances that we have. Yesterday, my daughter, is going to study law, and then her teacher comes up to me and says, law is paralegal as a business is dead. AI has taken over paralegal. It's no more in existence. AI has the capacity, but people who know AI can become the best lawyers. And that was quite surprising to me because, even though certain jobs are gone or they will not be in business soon, but it creates opportunities for you to be the best in the business if you know that same tool. The same tool can make you the best of the business. The same tool can get you out of the business. And AI is coming into construction. There is generative AI in construction. And construction AI has the ability to create project reports on the fly. Generative AI has got planning tools built in. So if you look at the AI tools coming into construction, I believe construction is just waiting to explode in the AI business. But getting onto the bandwagon of AI, learning how to use the biggest strength that the project manager is going to have in construction is generative AI. Because right now, he's so dependent on so many people to create that content for him. How many of, hands on heart, how many of us use Monte Carlo analysis to create predictions of project completion dates? Zero. Because we don't care. We do qualitative analysis, create a risk register, and that's about it. Dump it on the client. But we never go beyond qualitative analysis because we don't know how to work with data and we don't have the understanding of creating inferential statistics that allows us to make predictions.
Mainly time.
Huh?
Mainly time.
Mainly time.
Yeah.
But now using generative AI, if you put in the data, it can do the simulation for you. It can get you your predictions out that your project is gonna take so many days to complete. And there goes planning. There goes scheduling. There goes risk management. But if a planner knows AI, you can imagine what he's gonna become.
It's like an additional hand.
It's hands and legs. Because it's gonna take him to the next level. If a risk analyst knows generative AI if a health and safety manager knows generative AI, he's going up to the next
It's like
level.
your secretary or something.
Absolutely. So construction is waiting at the brim to explode in generative AI. And you will find it happening. It will be one fine morning we get up and it's out there. So understand where construction is going. AI, microlearning apps, that's now becoming very important. Microlearning apps is now coming out. We've experienced it. Earlier, students would say, please, if there's no classroom, we're not attending classes. We like classroom environments. That's where we study. Now they say, okay, hybrids is okay. We'll come 2 days in the classroom, then half a few days we will go online. Post 2022, okay, we will study, we'll study online. Now we don't want to see you. Just give us the recordings, we'll take it forward.
Yeah.
Right? Slowly that conversion has happened. So now we're also thinking, why do we still have classrooms? For those few people who still are in the 1990 mindsets, it's time to get over.
Why didn't we do this presentation at home?
Absolutely. I was telling the team, why can't we live stream this event to, millions across? We're the only ones who know CP. We have the opportunity. The team's like, no, it's been a while. It's been a while we've done classrooms or, seminars. It's important to see face to face. And I'm like, no, go beyond it. So I guess the mindset has accepted, but the problem is we don't know how to do it. But take my word for it, there are kids, there are people who, as we speak right now, are getting into generative AI to understand how to use it in the construction business. And it's important that you understand that's the trend. AI, cloud solutions, micro-learning tools, and career assessment tools. PMI has got a career assessment tool right plugged into PMI. So you log into your dashboard, the first thing it asks you is, let's evaluate your career. So I don't think education industries, if we want to assess a student, we need to create an AI that says, which course do you want to learn? Put down your details, we'll tell you what courses you need to learn. We never got to that stage, but I think slowly and steadily students will come to know that. So we cannot influence students by saying that, oh, PMP is the best for you. I think they will take it themselves. So, new ways of working. The biggest change that's happened is organizational agility. The fact that organizations are now becoming very agile in their thinking. And there's always a question about what is agile? What is the concept? What is the meaning? What is the determination of the word agile? And I realized that agile is just a mindset. It's the way we perceive things, the way we react to things, isn't it? If a dog comes running at you, you become very agile. It doesn't matter what form or shape you are, isn't it? Your mindset has now become agile because now there's an escape route that you want to find. So when situations happen, the mind becomes agile. When the situation does not give you that opportunity, you just go back to traditional ways of doing it. So I think agility to all the business owners sitting here. Understand agility. Agility is nothing but this. Your ability to make faster decisions. Your ability to have shorter decisions. Your ability to focus on change. Your ability to integrate the voice of the customer, and there are percentages of importance given there. Surprisingly, number 6 is your ability to get cross-functional teams to work together. That is agility in its pure form. Organizations and departments working together. Agility is your use of practices, leveraging technology is the last. But the most important part, in my opinion, is shorter decision cycles. If your organization can take decisions faster, if you can respond quickly to strategic opportunities, this is where today's world lies. One of the other things that I heard from the big players in the market was, who do you think is more agile? Bigger companies or smaller companies? Who do you think is more innovative? Bigger companies or smaller companies?
Bigger companies.
Actually, smaller companies. Because smaller companies are handicapped. They have very less resources. They have their financial strength is low. So their interest in innovation, their ability to accept is much better than organizations who are financially secure, have a huge cash flow, and they know what they're doing.
Even the acceptance for the decision makers is easy
Correct.
for smaller companies
Correct.
compared to bigger companies.
I think it's there. I was at EGA, just last week, looking at statistics, and we were working on a training program. And my surprise is that EGA, you can look at a manufacturing production plant, absolute smelter business, and you can see the kind of innovations that they've brought into their elements. And when we look at it and say, well, I can do this in a day in my company. Well, it's good, you can do it because your company is only 15 people. But try to bring that same change in a company of 60,000 and you will find the effort. You will find the effort, the layers, the demotivation, the challenges. So I guess as organizations are bigger, the challenges are different.
Many
And
are stuck in the way of their culture, old cultures, and so
Absolutely.
hard to change.
And when you look at it and say, it's such a small change, why could you not do it?
Resistance.
We could do it with our eyes closed here.
Resistance,
The
basically.
resistance, the non-acceptance.
The number of layers.
But I think this is something that we've all, felt. And why do you think change is so resisted? What do you think the reason and the rationale is?
People are comfortable with what they know.
Yeah.
Still using old archaic methods.
Then the risk is another factor actually. If you change, if you go for the change,
The
the risk
impact
for the
them
production,
is-
for the investment, that is the main player also.
Disruptions.
Disruptions. You see,
They will lose their power or job.
the problem is we always blame ourselves. It's always about us, isn't it? Oh, we are comfortable in our business. We are comfortable in
Why
our
we
things.
do this?
This is what it is. But we always forget. Change is resisted because we inform people. We don't work with them to bring the change. It's like I telling Shreya, Saturday is a working day. But write an email. Please be informed that starting next week, Saturday is a working day. The moment that email goes, resistance starts. Correct? Because you are not part of the decision making. You don't know why it's happening. What is the logic? What is the fundamentals? What is the rationale for it? And that's where the first resistance happens, because you've been informed of the change. So change is not because people are weak, they are more than ready to accept it. It's just that you inform them, you don't make them part of the decision process. The second reason in many companies is that they bring external people to talk to them about changes. They bring people from the outside and say what is good for them. And consultants have, Samir is my consultant, so obviously the first thing he'll come and say is, all of you are nonsense. Correct? Everybody working in the company is horrible. We need to change everything. So when an external consultant comes in, what else will he say? This is exactly what he'll say.
Yeah.
And the moment the external consultant comes in and starts talking this nonsense, resistance is at its best. So don't bring external consultants. Don't announce changes. Let it be organic. Let people understand why it's happening. Because every company has a rationale and a logic to bring changes in. So change has got 4 levels. I don't know why I'm training today. I'm supposed to be giving a speech, but change has got 4 levels, right? This is how change happens. And this is called the Saturn model. This is change. The first element of change, when you introduce change, is what? Resistance. So the first stage of change management is always resistance, because you inform people or you make them tell about it. But what's the next stage?
Moderate. Acceptance, moderate.
Acceptance so quickly?
No.
Because we haven't, we're
More
still going
resistance.
down.
More resistance.
More resistance. It's called complete mess. You messed up. Why? Because people they don't resist it, but now they don't know what to do. Because the change has now come into effect, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the tools, they don't have. After you pull the company out of chaos, you will have acceptance. And then you will have growth. Growth is not going to happen unless you go through resistance and chaos. And this is what we need to study. If you try to bring one AI tool into your company, you will experience this. And you will understand that this is going to happen. And as project managers, as construction managers, the next 2 to 3 years is looking extremely different. Not from a technical point of view, but from an innovation standpoint. Your company is wanting to introduce new products because they will not be compatible with what the market is. The client is going to ask you, it's going to be on tender documents that this is the tools that we need to work with. Aconex might change tomorrow morning completely. BIM might look very different, trust me on this. And then you're looking at different logics and perspectives of the same product line. So please recognize the meaning of adaptability and change. Organizations are now, getting into that mindset where they do believe, flexibility and adaptability is key. When we talk about the emerging trends in construction, specifically to what I have read and researched in the industry today, these are the trends. There's going to be a drastic scope increase on projects. That it goes without saying. So you will find that your scope documents are not going to be as volume 1s and 5s. I think there's going to be some very classic changes in the scope document. I think your competitors are going to be your partners. I'm sure you've seen these trends coming up, but you will soon have to learn to work with your competitors. You cannot provide one solutions. In one tender, you will work with your competitor. The next tender, it's not a joint venture, you will just work together.
Yep.
So you will have to learn to put things together. Divide the cake, share the cake, and make sure that the cake is not falling down. So you will have to learn to put it together. This is the norm. It's going to be regular. So don't be afraid of working with your competitors. This is very natural. The next thing that you'll have is the nonsense of WhatsApp. The avalanche of information that you will have on your projects. It's your clients will send you WhatsApp pictures of your sites and tell you, oh, we already know everything. So nobody's reading your reports. How will you make people read your reports? They're sending you windows and doors and pipes, and they're telling you, I know everything, I've been to site.
We come.
Yeah, you are not there, I was there at 9 o'clock. So I don't understand. Huh?
Your team is not there.
Your team is not there. One of your workers are sleeping.
Yeah. In the
Yeah, in the
lunch
lunch hour.
time.
It's a lunch hour.
But that's the problem, isn't it? It's gonna kill you.
Yeah, it's all.
It's so how do you make your information valid? How do you make your information read? How do you put together data? Because it's the reports that pay you, isn't it? It's the reports that pay you. We have sessions on FIDIC, and half the engineers don't know FIDIC. How are they managing events on site? They are working on a contractual relationship. So they don't know how to handle clients don't know how to handle subcontractors, consultants are behaving somebody else, so it's a complete, and somehow we managed to deliver.
Bits and pieces.
I've had a contractor who comes to me and says, why the hell are you so document driven? Absolutely, I'm not making it up. He said, why the hell are you so document driven? And I said, it's a schedule. I'm not asking you for any other documents, I'm asking you for a program schedule because I need to monitor you. And I'm not going to name the contractor, it's an ID contractor. He tells me, listen Najmul, something happens in the project. I can't tell you what happens, but something happens, it'll all come together at the end. And I'm looking at him and saying, we hired you, so who's the stupid one here? It feels like I'm the real silly boy who hired you because you just made a statement that scares the shit out of me. That you think organically something magical will happen at the end. So you're waiting for that magic day to happen, and which is probably when you get the TOC and leave. And I think this is the maturity, unfortunately. I always call the ID guys the fairies of the construction industry. These are the fairies, they're the butterflies, they're just hanging around. The post-structural guys and all of that are so I think we need to go beyond, and we need to understand the trends coming. look at the number of disciplines that you're going to work with. I mean, it's going to increase heavily in the next few years. I also believe that, you know, there is a growing requirement for hybrid models. I think you will have people, I'm sure you do, but I think it's going to really explode in the next few years. You are not going to have too much site offices, you are going to have hybrid models. You have to learn to work with people not geographically located in the same place. You have to learn to move away, and the thinking has to develop into much more, acceptability to working hybrid models. I know we don't like it. I know we like to see everybody co-located, but I think somehow or the other we have to accept it. One of the things, obviously, is cultural diversity. I think probably we are the only ones who understand it a bit more, because we do understand of working with different cultures, but virtual teams is now the norm. Just accept it. Learn to recognize it and learn to work with virtual teams, especially, you know, consultant supervisors. Make sure that your designers are there. So understand these elements, and more importantly, understand certain trends. There is going to be a serious connection between change and projects. There is going to be a lot of emphasis on soft skills. I think this is something that is not going to be restricted at project managers levels. This is something that's going to happen at every level. But this is my favorite. Data is going to rule construction. Make no bones around it. Data is going to rule construction. Analytics is going to rule construction. And AI, at least at generative levels, is going to be part of the business. All right? Get onto the bandwagon. I'm sure you've heard of interface management. And most of you are aware of interface management. But that is the area that's going to change drastically. The interface management is going to be completely revamped in the next few years. So acknowledge it. We are the seniors of the industry, all right? And it's important that we acknowledge that trend that's coming up. So generative AI, interface management in construction, these are the two areas that you must focus on. Others, I don't think I need to tell you. I think it's pretty obvious that this is how it's going to be done. But the first one is pretty startling. I don't know how many of you accept it, but the fact that you have to believe in digital and remote teams, I think that is something that we probably are the few who have not accepted it, but I think some.
It's like during COVID, it was starting to get like 20-30%, but after that,
we went back.
we went back.
Yeah, I think I don't know why we went back. I think we did a good job in COVID. In
Yes.
fact, we did pull off quite a lot of COVID elements.
It's like all the PMs were at their homes, only the necessary person was on the site.
Correct,
So,
correct. So I think slowly it's gonna start looking at it. But I would like to hear from you, what other trends do you think is coming into construction? I mean, this is PMI's report, it does not have to be finite. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of trends. What do you see happening around? I mean, this is what we have for you. This is what I think is the logic. But if we want to talk about something, I'm all ears. This is not a classroom, but we still have time. Go ahead. What do you think? Anything to add? Coffee time? So please understand the language, please understand the difference, but this is one of the changes that's slowly starting to happen. As much as we don't like to hear this word agile, I do believe that most projects are now starting to be focused on outcomes rather than outputs. The question really is, why are we doing this? Why are we creating this product for? Who are we creating this product for? So earlier it was purely, this is what it is, do it, take the money, go home. So hard skills was, yes, Amit?
I'm just I'm trying to get my head around something where how is in agile, what I know is that the scope is susceptible to change a lot.
Correct.
Agile is made to accept change in the scope.
Correct.
How does that fall within the construction? I mean, how are you going to change the scope of the construction?
No, I don't think it's that drastic. I don't think we'll ever be able to be that drastic. I think it's more a mindset. It's not a tool-based thinking. It's a more mindset. The acceptability to change will change a bit. I mean, we are quite rigid when it comes to change management, very controlled, very governed. I think we will soften a bit. We will soften our stance a bit. We might, be more acceptable to changes as we go forward. I understand during the later stages of the project, but what if, think about COVID, look at the kind of work we did where we started doing projects without knowing what they were, like, convert a hotel to a hospital. Yeah, we did it. We went for it.
Classroom to
We put up a toll gate.
Crises usually lead to that.
Yeah, crises do lead. I mean, look at what happened last week. Everything was agile, right? But
I
I'm
did
saying-
live through several things
Correct.
that did dictate
Correct.
agile
Correct.
changes,
Correct.
so that we can adapt to the situation and survive the situation.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
okay, even if people are accepting the change, but I don't see a construction project starting with a certain scope and ending with a different scope.
For sure. I hope that's not the case.
Concrete.
Because it's a scary feeling to
It's a disaster.
start thinking of it. But I do believe that we might be more accepting to the differences a bit of here and there that happens, which is a bit more than what we are doing right now. If somebody comes to you and says, this product is not going to work, what can we do about it? Earlier we used to say, I'm going to finish my contract, I'm going to take my money, and I'm going to go. That's about it. But I work in airport industries. If somebody comes to me and says, we've got to increase the footfall. I mean, look at the Nakheel Mall on JVC area. That project got its TOC. That project got its TOC last year. And then Palm Jumeirah was announced. Palm Jablali was announced. Correct?
Yes.
You have a project that's got the TOC. And then Palm Jablali was announced. And then that mall falls straight in that line.
Yes.
So the strategy changed. Correct? They started saying, okay, I think. So it was a tier 2 mall. And then they said, no, we got to make it tier 1 because it has a different business proposition. Complete reinvention. They didn't go live. They went into complete reinvention. 700 million change, variation brought into the project. So, does it happen? The answer is yes.
Same happened with metro. Metro earlier stations were only on this side, there was no access to the other side.
Correct.
So they realized and it changed the whole budget and the timeline changed.
So, outcome is more important.
Yeah.
Why are we building them all? The output is there. But if the contractor says, I'm not ready for it, you go into disputes and claims and all of that. But if the contractor says, yeah, I see your point, I will work with you towards it.
There's no
I had-
resistance. There is no resistance.
Yeah, there is the resistance factor has changed because we now understand why the client is thinking from that perspective. It's open, it's
And,
understood.
you see an opportunity.
Yeah. What happened to NEOM? Big bang, back to reality, isn't it?
Yes.
That's not classic.
I don't know who's in NEOM. I hope we don't have Saudi guys here, but it was all big bang talk and then finally came back to a building.
But that's not classic agile.
They don't
It's
know.
a different definition.
And I keep telling you, agile is not an IT word. Agile is a mindset.
Yes.
It's purely mindset. And my definition of agile is completely at the organization level. How do you believe in the concept? If you are a contractor who works on outcomes and you're able to deliver outcomes to the client says, man, work with them, they give you what, they make the product very viable.
The product matters at the end of the day.
And that makes, I have contract managers sitting here, they'll be like, to hell with this. This is looking crazy. But bring in adaptability into your contracts. Bring in adaptability to contracts. Make your contracts, drive your conditions in a way that it can accept changes better. That's all that is. So, earlier, technical understanding was everything. Now it is soft skills. Earlier, we used to be able to, look at managing teams. That was the role of the project manager. Now it's more about adaptability. Adaptability is key to success.
Ability to think on your feet.
Absolutely. Ability to understand what the other person's trying to tell you. Ability to take it back to your organization and try to incorporate what the person's trying to tell you. When we talk about projects, earlier we used to think of getting the job done right. Now we're focused on getting the right job done. And I think that's probably the mindset change that we have to bring. And this is trends that's happening. And I will repeat it for the next 2 years till the next trends come up. Because I believe that my industry, which is the construction industry, has to know the trends. Because we are blind to what happens. We lost our momentum when there was a digital transformation. We could have, we could have taken that opportunity. And now there's another opportunity. So I think we should start building it up and be innovative in your small spaces. Because that is what's going to take you to the next level. So, I'd like to speak about the change in the industry and what the industry really is looking at, subject-wise, elements of discussions. 66% of all industries, especially construction, says that the most important skill is technical. So obviously your packages matter. People who understand the relevant packages do matter. So that's probably the most difficult skill to find. But now this trend has slowly changed. But what is technical skills? What is the consideration of technical skills? We're talking about requirements understanding. We're talking about controls and scheduling. We're talking about risk management. We're talking about scope management. These are the technical skills needed in construction. When I was learning construction professional, this course, I learned that there is a tool called PDRI. There's a tool called PDRI that's used in the US that evaluates the strength of the tender document that you're sending to market. For us, we never evaluate. There's no evaluation done on the tender documents. So we let the tender document go. There is an evaluation tool that says if the tender document is not rated at a certain number, it means there is deficiencies and flaws in the tender document. It cannot go to market. And I was shocked and I said, there's actually a tool and there are templates. If you go to the Construction Industry Institute, there are templates for every kind of work. So there's a PDRI tool for infrastructure, there's a PDRI tool for residence, there's a PDRI tool for dredging, there's a PDRI tool for underground works. And I realized that, wow, we've never heard of this in the Middle East.
What's the abbreviation of video?
Product development and request tool, information. So when we developed that product, we created a scope document. And that is our employer's requirements that goes to market or stuff like that. And it's amazing. It's amazing the kind of tools that is coming to the market. Risk management is disastrous in the US. It is never, it's a forgotten word, isn't it? We don't do risk management. We are far, far away from it. We focus on the known, the unknowns.
Let it be.
So our risk management strategy is price and pray. So right, we price the job and we pray 5. I don't know about you guys, but we pray a lot. Because if something goes wrong, we are not in a position to manage it. Correct? So pray hard. Because that's your risk management strategy. And so the only person I've seen using a risk tool is the health and safety guy. Has any of you seen any other person using health and safety other than health and safety?
See, my disadvantage is coming from the UK.
Yeah.
Everything working on Transport for London infrastructure is risk-based.
Correct.
So this is a disadvantage to me here because I've produced a risk register and my project coordinator and other people in the group are like, why are you using this?
Why are you
I'm asking them
using
to populate this. They're saying, well, why are we doing this? We've got the work going on, we've got the
What's the
site, we
need
see
for
what's
it?
going on, and we monitor and control on site. But how do you mitigate the dangers and the risks and the loss of money and everything else for the company? Where's the protection?
Correct.
So this is my disadvantage.
Education.
I swear by risk registers.
Yes.
It helps me.
I mean, and risk registers is level 1.
Basic.
These are qualitative documents. We haven't even gone to level 2, 3s. I mean, you can't even perceive it. We do it. How long have you been here in the UAE?
I've been in UAE for 4 years working in
So
construction.
you are one of us now. So basically, we do it because there's a tender request. So somewhere in the tender there says, please prepare your risk documents.
Yes,
So, we have to do it. I mean, look at our quality documents. It's a shame, isn't it?
It's not just the risk document. I mean, like I sat down with one of those senior
Yeah.
managers.
Yeah.
Even the schedule, the Gantt chart,
Yeah.
it's just a required document, just do whatever and hand it over. No need to monitor. They just look at all of the documents as decorative items, that's all.
Yeah.
Standard requirements.
Standard
First page
requirement.
report, that's it.
And half the time, the quality documents have some other company's logo in it.
Yeah, it's copy and paste.
It's copy and paste. And the guy has, and that's a quality document. I mean, forget any other document.
Quality document does not have.
The logo has not been changed.
That tells you a lot, doesn't it?
That tells me everything.
Even the tender document, some other project, you just get that, only one page change.
So we can laugh at ourselves because this is not a forum for somebody else, it's our forum. But you can imagine the consequences. I mean, you can look at it if somebody was mature at a client level, and then how would he perceive things? In ID, again, sorry for bringing ID into it. The project manager has no clue on the project. Kickoff meeting is the first day he's seeing what's going on. He's been picked up from somewhere and dropped into the kickoff meeting. The guy has no clue. He's just sitting there. He's been introduced, and he's probably never even read the LOI. Forget the contract if at all there's a contract.
Scope, no idea on scope, no idea on.
And then I'm thinking, oh, I've got to work with him for the next 6 months. And I don't know.
You
what
have to
he's
trust him basically.
Huh?
You have to trust him to deliver.
Yeah, and you can see the account manager covering him up because the account manager is the project manager. He knows everything about the job, isn't it? The laughs say it all, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think.
I've been through worse.
Huh?
I've been through worse.
Yeah. Well.
Like you drop someone into a project that has no idea what the project is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hired as a project manager without even knowing. One of the managers I know, he asked me to tag along. He's going to a meeting.
And here's Summer, the PM for the job, and yeah, absolutely.
First day, first show.
First day,
Just
first
sit
show.
down, nod, smile.
Wait for the meeting to be over. Yeah, I think that's the way it is, and I think that's where, and we are supposedly one of the best in the industry, in the world. We are the ones who made the Burj Khalifas, and we've had the best infrastructure in Saudi,
We are
and
supposed to be an
we're going to
example.
change the world.
Yeah.
And then we look at it and say, what's going to happen in some other places that I might be going? But now taking statements from him, you go to Australia, you go to UK, and if you would try to pull off your stunts that you've been pulling off in the UAE,
Blacklisted.
God be with you.
They'll send you back.
Blacklisted.
They'll send you back. It's obvious. They will send you back. They are not going to take that crap. India included, I mean, we are extremely tight when it comes to construction because taxation is huge. And if we don't know how to work with labor unions and taxations and all of that, I think it's a completely different industry when it comes to construction. So I guess what we need to focus on is not about scheduling and controls, but that is important and we totally get it. But as Summer said, it's decorative now in nature. We don't even know the models of scheduling. I mean, if I were to sit down and ask you, what's the difference between critical path and critical chain? I don't know what answer I'll get, so I'm not going to ask you. But, how many of you follow critical path? How many of you follow critical chain? Why do we have two methodologies in
Process.
construction?
One is process oriented, one is.
The culture here is just get it done.
Yeah.
Critical
But,
path.
do you think?
We have inshallah programs.
Yeah, what's critical?
Build as we go.
Build as we go.
What's critical again?
Sorry?
Can you define it?
But do you?
We
think
are always
it's on the
firefighting.
top?
Huh?
On the top
I know.
No, I think, you see, that's the problem. We always blame somebody else. It's always people at the top, people at the bottom. But I think that's what we're sitting here for. Critical path and critical chain are multiple methodologies of construction scheduling.
Yes, sir, but then even if you make a presentation and show them, the question you get is why? Why do you need this? Why do we
We
need to?
have a slide called area of concern, but the minute we show the client says, I don't want to see the area of concern, just
Like-
delete it and come for the meeting.
It's more like you have a project, you do the first, second time, third time, then you're like, well, what's the use of it? Let's just follow the process.
Half the people in the UAE believe schedule is a contractually, legally binding document. Half of us believe that it's a legally binding document. It's not.
It's not. It's very
It's a monitoring document.
Monitoring, correct.
But it got very important.
But it depends on how you look at it.
No,
When you
it
have-
Yeah.
It's a contractual requirement, but it is a
It's a
monitoring.
deliverable of the project.
Believe that it is something which is you are giving in writing, and if you change it, it's going to be all penalized on
So
it.
technically, you're in breach of contract every morning.
Yes.
Yes.
Forms the-
Because you're not doing the work as what is written, isn't it?
No, but
Every
forms the
meeting.
basis of your claims, no, all this.
It is a document that can be used by the engineer to determine the claim.
Monitor.
Yeah.
But do you put your productivity rates
Yeah, we do,
as a contractor?
The contractor does, and then we monitor that.
Does the contractor give you his productivity rates?
Yeah,
KPIs.
he does.
KPIs.
Okay, yeah.
He does.
So
That's why you can use it to make your determinations, isn't it? Otherwise, you'll not be able to do your determinations.
That's a suicidal contract.
I don't know who is that, but I was quite shocked to find out that.
Trust what the contractor says, you're in trouble.
Real good contractor.
But the problem is that every project has two schedules. One internal by the contractor, where he's planning early completion, and then the other one where. So what is being demonstrated to the client and what's been executed on site is two different things.
One is for the client to be happy, one is for the actual.
Their management, internal
I
management.
don't understand that.
But
So then
nobody
what?
follows any of it.
So what is the point of scheduling in your project?
It's a task assigned, we have to do it.
To see how many days.
The way that
For
I have
now,
seen
we-
things
we
is
have it for
the
calendar.
schedule is actually a deal breaker over here.
Yeah.
What happens is the duration
At least
that
you
is
monitor.
assigned to the project,
Long you
there's no contingencies. So the duration specified in the Gantt chart is the contractual duration. You don't have any room for any leniency
Floats,
or
no,
change.
no
floats.
floats, yeah.
Okay. The activities, even if they're not critical activities, they are spread in a way so that each and every activity in the program is a critical activity.
Yeah, everything. is-
It goes down to, surprisingly, when I did my research, I found the difference between the Middle Eastern thought processes and other countries. Other countries have what we call as uniform commercial codes. The US has FAR, Federal Agency Regulations. Now what happens there is competition is equal. Meaning you are categorized as per your trade license, you're given a category that you belong to a woman-run business, you belong to a minority business, you are tier 1 contractor, you're tier 2 contractors. So when there's a tender in the market, it's very clearly specifically said, this job is for minority-run communities. This job is for tier 1 contractors. This job is for woman-run business. So that's where competition comes in. You can't bid outside your space. Here, Najmul Hussain contracting versus L&T. What do I do now? Pick up what I get. Accept everything on terms and conditions. I don't even read the terms. Just sign. Tell me where to sign. Isn't it?
But to a certain extent, it is here. I mean, like we do have.
That is driven by organizations.
Not by
Organizations pre-qualify contractors and define them in categories. It's not at the government level.
Like G+1, this is
Yeah,
for
this is
Dubai
the-
and
Yeah.
on residential.
You do it.
buildings.
DAMAC will do it. DAMAC will categorize, or MR will categorize, but there's no government regulation over it.
Government does it for their own projects.
No, those are government companies who do it. So everybody pre-qualifies according to what they want.
So okay, it's a free, everybody, if he's eligible, let him do it.
So, but why?
So government is not putting rules on, restrictions on that.
Yes.
Because the country is very young actually in the
I
construction industry.
totally get it. I totally get it. It's
So
young, it's
that,
immature.
yeah, and the massive expansion and massive development is there in last 30 years.
But what's gonna happen? You're gonna pick up a job
Quality.
where
No,
you're
the quality
gonna,
is there.
When you're contracted.
I
Yeah,
doubt
it depends on the project. If I see my
But
project,
we
last
see
20
during
years
the-
I am here, my project is with the quality.
You seen during the
That's
release.
good.
And type of industry also it depends. So if contractor is doing logistics, supply chain and the factories, they will not bid for the residential or the villa.
Says who?
No, it's like.
Yeah, if I'm running out of money, if I don't have money, I'll bid for anything.
Yes.
Desperate.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Then his license activities. and
Sure,
all
of
such.
course. There are certain regulations, but you see, fair and equal competition does not exist.
That is true.
So when fair and equal competition does not exist, you are playing against the big boys. So what happens is contractual conditions are written against you.
Can I just want to, it's the big boys that are playing against.
Absolutely, I agree
Yes,
on that
because
statement.
You see, when you go into a project,
Yeah.
you're trying to tender for a project as a big organization where you have a head office, you have an overhead, you
Overhead.
have managers, and then you have somebody that's a one-man show
Correct,
that's bidding against you with
Contracting and everything.
almost no overheads.
correct,
That kills you.
correct. That's why it works both ways.
It works.
It is not in favor of only one party. It has to work both ways. So
Yeah,
you will
even with
not
the
bid for a
crisis.
job that you're not eligible to.
Even with the crisis, the big players always bidded for the small projects as well. The small guys got thrown out of the business.
How many local businesses do you have, that can survive? Because there are no bids that are open for local businesses only, locally established countries. So I think there are some flaws at every level.
Yeah.
We have to understand it. As what he rightly said, the market is just 20 years old, 30
Yeah.
years old. So we're just developing.
You see, sir, if you see, especially the disputes in this industry, only introduce that people come to know after the crisis.
Correct.
When crisis come in, then we come to know, oh, there is a dispute, there is a verdict, there is a court cases. Courts were not ready to check all these things.
The biggest problem in construction contracts in the UAE, and I'm sure he can vouch for it, is the absence of a dispute adjudication board.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the I have not seen, very rarely, including governmental contracts, I have not seen the creation of a DAB board in UAE.
Yeah.
It is non-existent. We go mediation, the consultant is going to try and mediate. If it fails, go straight to arbitration. That's our process of dispute resolution. So clause number 20 of your contracts is not
No.
valid. You don't have dispute resolution procedures because the only dispute resolution is solve it, and then you have a 2-to-1 ratio because the consultant is always going to favor the client. And then you have the arbitration process where it's a much more tedious and legally tiring process.
People are not prepared, contractor is not prepared for that actually. His documentation is not going to support him in the legal procedure.
Fair and equal
But
competition
inspection
because you're fighting against David and Goliath,
Yeah.
so you obviously are not going to fight.
The distributor comes under whom? Like forming this.
That's exactly the point. There is a concept called DAB in all projects. We have to learn how to work with it. And you go to any construction conference, I'm not kidding you, I'm not making it up here. I've been to construction conferences and they are shouting at the top of the voices, guys, mature yourself. There's nothing wrong with a DAB. Put it together, it's part of your job. It solves your problems half the time. And that is risk management, isn't it? That is risk management. Otherwise, you end up suspending the job. The contractor does not know his events of suspension. He thinks that, okay, anything is a suspension clause.
Yeah.
Yes.
Delay letter.
Delays, EOTs that are not approved. Just on
And
the-
EOTs, timelines are not focused, time bars are not respected. So at the end of the day, he just walks into the client and says, let's please do something about it. So I think you have to learn to understand the technicalities of the job. Because if the maturity increases, it increases in this room, isn't it? It increases in this room. What's a DAB? How to set it up? For how to appoint people? How to work with them? Who are the people? How do they get paid? You know, all of that has to come into consideration. Then you can choose which projects you want to do it. Start with one. See the beauty of a DAB. You know, when you give a notice of dissatisfaction, you cannot give a notice of dissatisfaction on a mediation process. It can only be given at an adjudication process. All right? So look at different formats, look at different elements of risk management, the way it's done. You are not going to be doing projects in one country anymore. You're going to be traveling, company's going to take up jobs outside and be ready for different methodologies. Understand scope management, you know, understand the validity of this document, understand the criticality of this document. You know, we are still fighting over priority of documents.
So when you do a session, like for a company, so there will be everybody from the top to the bottom. So what's the feedback when you say like this should
Well, I take the big boss out of the room. I say, please leave.
Okay.
Because there is always the Moses factor, isn't it? The Moses is in the room, only he is talking and the rest is keeping quiet. So the moment I see a company with, I never conduct training with all hierarchies in there because it spoils the training.
Okay.
The big boss is sitting in the training,
No.
he's preaching, I'm sitting in a corner, he's teaching.
But then what's the feedback like?
Huh?
Like when you say that, you know, the suppose the distributor.
I think people know. I think it's not that people are not aware. They're not. They just are, you know,
will do it.
not motivated enough to put it in action. You know, and construction is not like other industries. It has specifics. It has very clear specifics. You know, when I talk to him, he may be any part of the world, but he understands what I'm talking. Because we talk the same language, all right? And we understand the same language. We build the same product lines. The only thing that changes is the environmental factors. The rest is
But then
good.
don't you think that when the big bosses are out, the employees are like, you know, even if we say the boss doesn't know about it, there's no point, right?
Yeah, but you see, who's going to bring change? You are going to bring change. It's you who starts off, isn't it? Why did you become PMPs and what was the point of doing all this certification process? If you come to know that there is a tool that validates your scope document before it is let out to market and you don't use the tool, if you knew that Primavera has the capability to do risk predictions and analysis, you know it as a planning engineer, as a scheduling manager, and you're not using it because you feel, oh, why should I use it? I think it's you who's the problem, isn't it?
But if somebody is using it, but still the big boss is like, what's the use of it again?
Rima, you are the planning engineer of this class. What do you say?
If the
Because that's what
minute we see
happens
something,
usually.
they'll be like, you know, keep it aside. They're good people.
Keep it aside.
Contractors are good people. Don't
I
make
think
an
the
issue
big
right
bosses
now.
should be included, and they should be in the front seat,
Yeah.
not the back seat.
Right? Requirements gathering is a bigger challenge. Controls and scheduling is challenging. So you will find that companies are looking out for these people. People who understand risk management correctly, scheduling correctly, understanding how to validate scope documents correctly. So I think that's the basic 66%. Then the next challenge, the bigger challenge, is finding people who can manage people. You know, finding people who can manage people. And it's trouble number 2. You know, who are your leaders? You know, what is leadership? How do you work with leadership? What is the concept of leadership? I mean, we use words, and this is where negotiation comes in, this is where conflict management comes in, motivation comes in. The soft skills are all here. You know, I mean, NCMA, I really like NCMA as an association because they have some really good definitions there. PMI is crap when it comes to definitions. But NCMA is beautiful for
Too much
definitions.
jargon.
No, PMI has jargons, but I like NCMA's jargons better because they really put it correctly. And I was looking at the definition of leadership, and I was trying to understand what is leadership. Now, how do you perceive the word leadership? What makes you a leader, as somebody who is called a leader? Who's a leader?
I've noticed that every organization has a different definition for
Yeah.
every body for knowledge
Yeah.
has a different,
Correct.
be it in separate universities, they have different definitions.
Correct.
PMI has a different definition,
Absolutely.
CHMC, etc. So,
But fundamentally, there is an agreement to this definition, isn't it? If I want to see her as my leader, what is it that she should have? That I call her my leader? What is the elements of leadership? Charisma?
I think one of the
Yes, yes. It's one of the very.
NCMA guys will wake up now.
Yeah.
They're studying it. But the problem with charismatic leaders is that the victory is theirs.
The losses.
So they will always take the cake, because they are the ones in there. And the team is actually quite demotivated because they're like, whatever we do, the guy is the one who's going to take the cake.
Servant leadership.
Huh? Servant leadership.
Masters, yeah.
In construction, I don't think we can get to that level of servant leadership. But the point, those are the personalities of leadership. The fundamental concept of leadership is somebody who has competence.
Knowledge.
What's competence? Again, you go into definitions, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's competence?
actually, it just has to make you believe that he has competence.
Ability to deliver.
You all have job descriptions. You all have JDs, correct? But leaders are individuals who think outside the box. Meaning, I come to you with a problem, you will solve it for me. People will respect you as a leader if you're able to solve my problems. Meaning, you will go beyond your comfort zone to find a solution. You're competent enough to find solutions. You're competent enough to understand the problem, go beyond your thinking range and find answers. The moment you do that, I accept you as my leader. So that's the first trait of leader. The second trait of a leader is character. There's a beautiful line in NCMA that says, you pay for competence, you get character. Meaning you hire people for who they are and their competency because that's what you see on paper. What you don't see is the character. And people, you may be the most competent person, but you have the worst character, people don't accept you as leaders. Correct? So it's a beautiful tree, isn't it? It's a beautiful tree. The competencies and the character. So this is the fundamentals of leadership. Who are you? Are you competent enough so that people come to you? And do they see the character that allows them to accept you as your leader? Those are the two pillars. Right? Obviously visions, but most important is your ability to collaborate. And somehow we've lost the art of definitions. What's the difference between coordinating, networking, and collaborating? Obviously there's a difference, isn't it? In this room, what are we doing?
Communicating.
Networking, at best. So networking is always give and take, isn't it? I share information, you share information, we help each other. So networking is about helping each other. Make sense? Networking is about helping each other. What's coordinating?
It has a two-way
Thank you. It's more two-way.
principle. It's
I help you, you
receiving
help
and
me,
distributing.
because we both need to get our job done.
Correct.
All right? And collaborating is me helping you to get the job done. I gain nothing out of it. So obviously a leader is somebody who does not network, who does not coordinate, who collaborates, because that is what he gives you, that when you come to him, I help you to do your task. So there are fundamentals of leadership. And as construction, you are talking to unskilled, skilled, look at the number of people you're managing and working with. You need to collaborate, you need to network, you need to know when to network, when to collaborate, when to coordinate. That's the traits of leadership. And this is what you're on. So understand that leadership models are heavy. And obviously, as a project manager, as a construction manager, you need to understand all of this. Negotiations really, a lot of language in negotiation. A lot of language in negotiation. Why do we have, and I've spoken to my FIDIC students about it, why do we have the meeting at the client location? The wife knows it. She will not tell you, but you need to tell me.
He cannot walk out.
You can walk out.
There is a walkaway
Escape.
option given to the contractor. So negotiations actually in favor of the contractor, not the client. So it's actually a technique, isn't it? We use the word win-win. What does that mean? Both of us agree?
Both of us have a benefit.
What is your selling price made up of? Cost plus profit, correct? So cost and profit, that is your selling price. So when you say win-win, it means what? Don't touch my profit. I will find a way to reduce cost. That is the definition of win-win. I will find a way to reduce cost. So you win, don't touch my profit. I win, correct? So before negotiation, the client has to call you and say, come to the meeting, it's a win-win discussion. Meaning, I'm telling you I will not touch your profits. Come to the office with a way to reduce my cost. Can the client call you up and say, this has to be a lose-lose discussion, otherwise there's no way we can sign the contract. Meaning, you find a way to reduce your profit, I will find a way to increase my cost. That's the only way we'll agree. The answer is yes. Because negotiations are win-win, win-lose, lose-win, or lose-lose. But it is a predetermined discussion. You don't call the client, you don't call the contractor and say, come to the meeting for a win-win discussion, and then you say, no, I can't accept your profits. You messed up the whole concept of negotiations, isn't it? And negotiations are a huge part of construction. And 90% of the time, this man there, the contract manager, will never call the project manager. He'll say, I don't want to see this guy in the room. I will discuss. Correct? 100%. 100%. I'm putting you on the spot now. Now, because he knows that you don't know negotiation. He comes with the concept that project managers and negotiation are too far away. They don't know how to negotiate. So please don't call the project managers in the room. They will spoil it for us. And that's his thinking. Because he's created that perception about project managers, isn't it? Understand the language. Understand motivation. Understand problem solving. Understand competencies coming from there. This is called upskilling. This is where you change and evolve as construction professionals. But the biggest change that's happened in the construction industries is managers being hired because they can deliver on strategy. And I started my discussion with this language, and I'm going to continue talking about this language because construction industry is all about strategy now. Strategy that belongs to you. If your project managers don't understand your strategy, they are going in a completely different line. And strategy brings in two words, which is contracts. So contracts are now probably in the construction industries a no-brainer. It has always been, but now with the advent of pure certifications coming in, the focus on contract management and risk management has gone up to the next level. This is where the focus has changed. And obviously finance, which we all hate again, is something that is also coming up. So I think that's what we are looking at, and this is where the industry is going. So I wanted to start off my discussions with giving you a preview of why the certification has been introduced. Because the certification has been introduced to upskill you in 3 areas. Number 1, technical. Number 2, leadership. And number 3, strategy. Because this is what we believe as PMI, that is the new construction line. We cannot be somebody who's done engineering and worked on contract or projects and and taken up organically the role of project managers without knowing how to handle these things. I think it's time that construction managers and project managers in the construction industry evolve into a much more purer form. It's time for prayers.
Yes.
So we will take a break for another 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes. I think snacks are served. So when we come back in about 15-20 minutes, I think we will just go into the certification process. All right? I'll see you in 15. Thank you. This room anymore. So we purposely did not announce this 2 chapters and other things because we wanted
I could switch
for-
sides if you want.
You can switch sides, yes.
Yeah.
But we wanted to keep it more relevant to the discussion, so I'm happy to have all of you here. I guess the second part of this discussion is more about getting to know what PMI has done to address the concerns that we've just looked at. They have released a certificate called the Construction Professional. The Construction Professional has been introduced back in 2022. It was earlier scheduled to be out in 2021. It has gone through a lot of revisions as we speak. It did have a lot of challenges as well. But now I guess it has stabilized a bit, and today we are now looking at a ready product on that. The good thing about this course, especially with regards to me, was earlier this course had its own self-learning modules. I, as a faculty, I felt that it was not talking very well, so I started to work on the content to deliver the course, and then we organically became the first people in the Middle East to kind of put forward this course to the public. And now we realize that we have the content and PMI does not have the content. So now PMI is coming back to us and saying, okay, we need to work together because we have classrooms back in Aramco, I think, and we are actually giving them the content. So it kind of is a good thing to have. It's like a sweet revenge kind of a feeling. So I'm happy because we have to beg them for content and materials, but then when they come to us and say, please, make me feel good.
That's very big.
Yeah, that's very big.
But okay, now since PMP has changed its direction and its content from one being specialized for something specific
Correct.
to something more generic, how much in common does the CP have with the earlier versions of the PMP?
Well, earlier versions means it depends who taught you.
7-8 years ago.
It depends on who taught you. So let me just introduce the certificate and give you the modules, and then probably you can make the comparison yourself. So maybe students who've passed the PMP version 5 probably might be able to relate. But 6th version onwards, 6th edition onwards, I don't think we started getting adaptability into the picture. We started getting agile into the picture. So, I think you can look at version 3, 4, and 5 as your basis of discussion. So, well, let's talk about it. Now, when we talk about this, I think PMI realized that because they have to create 2 streams, one for predictive models and one for adaptive models, and the industries that they knew were following predictive models heavily was construction and oil and gas. Adaptive models were being followed by followed by IT, banking, all of that. So they have started to create specialized certifications once the PMP is over, or if you would like to go that direction. The CP certificate has been introduced since about 2 years, and it has now been driven as the gold standard for construction professionals. So it's been portrayed, or it's been showcased as the gold standard for construction professionals. it's been seen as a competition to MSc Construction Management. So they're trying to kind of, challenge MSc Construction Management, right? Because obviously that's academic, and their fight is always with academic. You would probably go spend a year in MSc, I guess that's the normal timelines, and you could spend around 4 to 5 months on a CP journey, and it probably has almost the same module. So if you want to make a comparison, you always take a professional certificate and compare it with what it's trying to target against. The fact is, like when we went to, it's all right. When I went to the University of Birmingham, they had MSc Construction Management, and they had, I think, around 8 students in the UAE, and they have a lot of students in the UK. But now I realize that why are colleges being set up in the UAE, especially UK colleges? And then when I looked at it, I said, I found a lot of Russian students sitting in that class. And I found a lot of Chinese students sitting in that class.
Chinese maybe
Chinese
more.
move.
So I said, it does look strange, the populations. Then I asked him, why am I seeing so many students from Russia and China? And said, well, because visas are not granted to students in Russia and China back in the European countries anymore. So they've created colleges here, and they're diverting population here. So I found that probably a very, a thought process. So obviously, students will now take up the professional routes, because obviously there's no restriction on countries and such. There's no embargoes, and you can be applying from any part of the world. So it kind of works there. So I do believe that they're trying to compete with MSc Construction Management. And what they've done is, obviously, they've created a route for certification programs. Let me give you a history of how they worked that out. So it's not PMI who collaborated to come up with this course. There are 4 associations that collaborated to come up with this course. And the 4 associations are CII, Construction Industry Institute from the US, FIDIC, which is from Geneva in UK, in Europe, and Oracle from the US, and PMI from the US. So they created a collaboration because they wanted to come up with the gold standard. All right, so they created 4 modules. The problem that happened with the certificate is they left each person to create their own learning module. So FIDIC created contracts and risk management, Construction Industry Institute created scope and change, PMI created communications and stakeholder management, and Oracle created interface management. So they created 4 e-learning programs, and then that was, so if you had to obtain the CP certificate until last year, you had to do 7 e-learning programs, and you had to do 4 micro certifications before you come up to the actual exam. So each module or each domain had its own micro certification, and then once you pass or once you complete these 7 modules and once you complete these 4 micro certifications, you can attempt the actual exam. Students felt this is a complete, it was too heavy, it was not required. And then it was not open to the ATPs. So it was not open to people like us to teach, because it was purely a PMI plus these guys' product, and it was only available as an e-learning course. Last year, they realized that this is not going to work, because the interest was there, but the roadmap towards the certification was too stretched out, and it's completely up to the student. And you can't start a course and the first module that says is contract and risk management. You have to bring the student in, you have to ease the student in. So there's no construction life cycle in there. So it's all just, okay, do this, and case studies all over the place. Now what happened was that they had only the e-learning program as content, which was created by 4. Then they realized, okay, we can't have this. They opened it up to ATPs. So as Red Learning, we participated in the programs, we took the training, and then we realized immediately that this course is too scattered. So we plugged it together. So we picked up and we started doing this. So we drove it as per the construction life cycle, because PMP is what? It's the project life cycle, and you plug in these areas as we go. So scope management will appear in planning, scope management will appear in execution, scope management will appear in control. So that's the logical way of doing things. So I guess this is what every ATP would do. So we created our own bundles and now we're putting it up. So this is the start of the CP program. Now CP program has changed. So you have exactly like how PMP is, training, one micro certification, obviously PMI. So you have one micro certification for communications, which is mandatory before you go to the exam. And then the rest is not any certification. They'll be part of the actual exam. All right, so this is the current situation and this is where we are right now. So it's a much more easier journey, 40 hours of training, like how you would do your PMPs. You would go for a micro certification on communication and then you go for a macro certification, which is the CP exam. The CP exam is broken into 4 domains, just like how PMP is broken into people, processes, and business environment. The CP program is broken into 4 because of the 4 individual associations that are part of this program. One is contracts and risk management, that is maximum 51%. You obviously have governance, which is around 5%. You have stakeholder strategy and scope management, which is 29%. And you have stakeholder management, which is 15%. So you have your 100% distribution from this particular element. So surely you understand that because most of the intent is to manage projects, contracts will become, important. So this is the current examination outline. This is how we look at it. Obviously, it has been updated last year late, and the focus is on contracts, governance, scope management, etc. So this is the current examination outline. The examination is not available on Proctor. So PMP is now available at home, so you can take the examinations from home. CP is to be taken at testing centers only. So it's like program management, portfolio management. It's not available at home levels or Proctor levels. And they are they're holding back questions. They're not really releasing sample questions. They're not really releasing elements as such. I still don't understand why they still have pre-test questions, but you're scored on 150, but you have 170 questions in the exam to be given in 4 hours. So that is, I don't think you have proctored, but you have center-based exams, 2 breaks, 60, 60, 60. So you have your, it's broken into those 2 breaks. And it's a multiple choice exam, just like your PMPs and PGMPs with 4 choices. And you now have graphs or hotspots. It's multiple choice, but still broken into graphs and hotspots and stuff like that. So the examination format is pretty much standard, not deviating, no negative marks. The course content, there is no standard, so there's no PM book as such for construction. It is based on what content has been given as the original content by PMI, modified by the ATPs. That's pretty much the reference point that we have. Obviously, when I was doing PGMP back in 2010, 11, there was no material. So we studied, we researched. That's why the concepts are still clear with us, because obviously we worked our way into it. We didn't just have ready-made material to just pick up and like how we have for the PMPs, So I guess the challenge is always there. If you want to be in the first few who have attained the subject and the title, the roadmap is completely different than what you will find 5 years from now, where probably it has then become a very foundational level certificate. Obviously that is the intent, but this is where we are right now. There is very few examination questions. I'm fighting with PMI to get some sample questions. We understand, because we've gone through the examination process, what is the intensity. It's very much to the book. So compared to PMPs, where you have much more scenarios and stuff like that, I think this is much more open straight to the point questions. But I do believe that the question banks are being revised and the question banks are being modified to look at it. So just to understand, the content of contracts management is driven by FIDIC. The content of governance and strategy is, strategy and governance is done by, CII, or scope is done by CII, and then interface management will be done by Oracle. So these are the 4 players in the market. They will be making the announcement official. So now PMI is going to make the announcement that FIDIC is officially a partner. Till now it's under the wraps, so it's mostly PMI showcasing that it's their product, but very soon it will be that, it's a FIDIC based product. It is. So FIDIC, what they're doing is they are removing some of their certifications. Oracle is removing some of their certifications to make this certification more prominent. So they are trying to withdraw. So FIDIC has got a certified consulting engineer. I think they're withdrawing that so that this can be their basis. So it's like a joint venture between 4. I'm sure there's a financial arrangement somewhere, but that's the way they are looking at the certificate. Obviously, the intent is to look at engineers, project engineers who want to be PMs, construction managers who want to be PMs. So they're trying to create a PMP plus CP model, or straight away a CP model, to help engineers go into that field of work. Obviously, the intent is also to not get into driven by pure agile tools which are used heavily in banking and IT. So that's the whole intent as well, not to dilute your PMP effort by wasting your time on pure agile tools that you might not use in the real world. So that's the intent of the exam as well. So this is the fundamental thought process behind the subject. If there's any clarity that you may require, please do ask. The application cycle is just like PMI. It's a 1-year application cycle. So once you apply, you will not be allowed to apply unless you pass the micro certificate. So the application does not open up till you actually go through the micro certificate. So what we do as part of teaching is we actually start off with the micro certificate because we want to get rid of that effort. And once that is module number 1, and then we immediately put down your application, and then you take it forward into that place. So this is the general way of looking at it. The content is mostly driven by us. It is our content that is driving the course. There is no other content available, though there are 1,000 reference points. So PMI has released 1,000 reference documents that you can study from each of these associations. So you probably have to go to CII and download and read a lot of documents because the tools are all spread out. Some of the tools are in Oracle, some of the tools are in CII, some of the tools are in FIDIC. So you will have to research all 4 areas to get a better understanding of those tools that we speak about. So, that's the way we are looking at it. So if you want to do risk management and risk analysis tool, Oracle happens. If you want to know more about communications, you have PMI tools. Those kind of languages do happen and come over. All right. You can go through the certification registry. There are already 4 students certified in UAE. So there are 4 students, not by us, but somehow they have, I think they have gone through the e-learning plus the micro certs, and then they have looked at it. I think the demand is, we conducted our first batch. We had 7 students, and all 7 students were from different countries. So we had 1 from Vietnam, 1 from Philippines, 1 from Saudi, 2 from Saudi, 1 from UAE, something like that.
How did you work on the time zones?
That was unbelievable because the students in Vietnam had to sit through nights.
Exactly, that's what
Yeah, because they were Philippines and Vietnam, they had to sit through nights. But that was, we had no choice because, and we selected a weekend, so that they can get some breathing space in the morning. So we've done that because we are very clearly seeing interest outside UAE. It's clear. You will see a lot of Saudi students sitting. I was in Bahrain and I got a visitor from the Bahrain oil company, and he was a CP. So there is individual interest coming. So obviously it is driven by individual interest as I see it. And then there are people finding and searching who is actually providing the training. and then that's how the first few batches are going to be set up. Again, that's the way we are looking at it. Obviously, the intent is to create that eliteness in the branding, individual branding, to say that okay, we are one of the top 10, top 50, top 100, depending on when you finish. And I'm sure that there is an interest that is generated here. I do believe that PMI is working very closely with Saudi. So I think what their focus is to really, not as much as UAE, I'm not so sure. PMI is right in Knowledge Village, so we go there a lot, but they are driving the certification in Saudi. They are making it like what they did with Expo. They came to Expo, they sat with Expo, and when Expo was being driven, Expo then suddenly came up with a rule one fine morning, all contractors, PMs have to be PMP certified. And that was driven by PMI. You know, so I believe that they're trying to create a gold standard because their initial success with PMP was with Aramco. So Aramco bought the PMP logic. They bought it and they sold it. So what we are living today is what Aramco did 20 years ago. They bought PMI into the region. They were the ones who made it mandatory that PMP has to be part of their project managers certifications. So I'm guessing that they are heavily hitting Saudi right now. They're making it the norm that if you want to hire PMs, they have to be CP certified. So this is what I'm thinking, what I'm guessing. But I also believe that slowly and steadily, I think construction professionals will also start to realize that PMP is not for them. Because I've seen students coming out of the exam telling me, what the hell was that? 80% agile questions. Why am I working on user stories? Why am I supposed to learn about MVPs, and why am I supposed to talk about now? What I do is I really try to convince them that this is important, especially the construction guys, that yeah, you have to know it, because obviously there's automation inside construction as well. So there's a lot of adaptive packages inside construction, but that's not the default. So I guess somewhere down the line, you will have to probably get into it. You will have to probably work with it. So we should stop talking bad about PMI, because PMI is here now. So, so I think, yeah, that's the criteria that we have. I think you should remember that this is a product that has been created for the construction market. So they are going to drive it. PMI is a cash cow. You must realize that they are a serious cash cow. Their offices that's driving the CP is not in the US, but it's in London. So London's driving the CP certification. They have been given the target to push the certificate in the Middle East. So they are competing against their own product in a way. You know, so unfortunately that's the situation. And that's happened with many companies. They have a product that's very good, they cannot introduce another product because they have to somehow manipulate that product. So what I feel now is, if a construction student, if there's anybody right now studying PMP, anybody?
I was about to.
He was about to, yeah. I think that person could be the right person to give the feedback, saying that I don't feel connected. You know, this is exactly what IT students used to tell me 10 years ago. That I don't feel connected. What is this critical path nonsense? What is this? I'm never going to use it in my life. You know, why am I studying things that especially software developers, they would feel very disconnected with PMP, because the class would be full of construction guys and 2 people from IT would be sitting on the side, completely lost. Now it's the other way around.
That's how I felt, you know?
Yes.
I had a difficult time adapting.
Because the class was, yeah.
I mean, agile. Huh?
Yeah, I think, you know, so it's 50-50 now on the PMP exam. It's 50% predictive, 50% adaptive. But then the questions are wrapped in mostly adaptive language. So people are not, you know, enjoying the journey as much as they would have loved when we talked about 10, 20 years ago. So I think that's the challenge that we're facing right now. So I guess having this certificate is probably something which is mandatory at PMI levels, because how will you go from CP to risk? How will you go from CP to scheduling? What are the practices? Because they've already created the practices. there is scheduling, there is risk, so they've already created the practice subjects, but they don't have the foundation because the foundation has shifted to more agile. So they have created the practices for agile like DA and other things, but practices for project management like scheduling and risk is already in place, but now they need to come up. They have an earned value standard, they have a WBS standard. So they have those standards, it's just that they don't have a certification that talks about the pure construction methodology. So it was long overdue, I guess. But the comparison, you should know where you're headed. You cannot compare it to a PMP because PMP is very foundational, very generic. It's more about competing with the MSCs, and that's where we're headed. If there's any questions, please ask.
So how about the market, construction market, about that certification? Are they aware of this certification?
To an extent, yes. To an extent, no. Obviously, because it's new.
Yes. That's
All
what I
right.
said.
So, but you need to look at who's behind the certificate. It's PMI. So there's a lot of work that obviously they will put in to bring the market branding into play. They are promoting everywhere. This is one way of them promoting their product. Surely I believe, because I come from construction, I'm a faculty for project management, so I will always pick it up. But maybe another institute who has a faculty coming from IT might not pick it up. Correct? Because it'll be unfair on that faculty to teach a construction related product. So faculty members also matter here. So they are very selective about faculty members. They don't want IT guys to teach this because construction guys would feel completely lost if the IT guy speaks about it. So they have a much more nicer selection process. What is the market reputation at this time for the product? It's unclear. I cannot vouch. It's new. It's just 1 year into the business, but I guess that's where the advantage is for the individuals. That okay, I want to be the number 5 or 10, because all the students that we had, one is Philippines. I want to be the only one. I want to be the Bahraini students, and I want to be number 1. So there's always that personal gratification that people are looking for with the certification as well. That's how it works. Others?
Will it cover any AI based?
No. AI is not covered in this. It's more interface based because that is the language we speak. In construction, we understand interfaces. So it's pure predictive models. All right. There's no AI. There's no adaptive. There's no language of that coming into this thing. It's purely scope and the tools related to these elements. So do you have to study contract types? Yes, but what is more important is to understand claims and disputes management, change management. So it's very, very relative to what you do. So you will pretty much, it's like upskilling what you're already doing. So it's what you are there for. So that was what PMP was 10 years ago. You already knew it, and any professional certificate in the world is meant for professionals who are part of the profession. So if anybody's sitting here, I would assume that person's a construction guy, has been with a certain level of experience. If somebody was sitting here as a construction professional coming out of college, then the criteria does not match because the criteria says 3 years in the construction industry. So you must have some reference points, some experience to take the certification for. Otherwise, it's not for you. Professional certificates are not meant to be for individuals who are just getting into their career. It is for people who've already worked in the business. It's just letting the market know, I know my job. I know my job. I am aware of the standards. I know the language. And I have been endorsed by an association that is recognized. That's pretty much it for professional certifications. Don't think of it as element of, whoa, I go to the next level. This is just stamping you with what you already know. All right? Because many a times we spend a lot of years, with experience. And when we go to a market with a certain amount of experience, you may have that experience. You may have now the biggest challenge in diverse industries is, where did you come from? You came from India. Which part of India? Kerala. What university did you go to?
I went to Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu. Which university?
Amrita.
Amrita. How many of you know Amrita? That's it. Because if he was your manager or he was your manager, you say, I come from the best university in Kerala. He'll say, good luck, I have no clue what you're talking about. Correct? Because you don't relate. So you don't know engineering, or he does not understand the engineering you've done, he does not know anything. But if you talk to me, I might understand it. All right? And even in India, we don't understand where is Amrita. So I mean, so it's going to be very difficult to convince a person from the country, from a different country. You will not understand it. He will not be able to buy your argument. So how do you sell the argument that you are a construction professional? You show global certifications that says, okay, I'm an engineer, I've done that, but then I've moved on to a global. And when you come into a global market, don't go with local certifications. You know, I'm from Arab University in Beirut. Okay. Again, the same thing. I don't understand it. So we cannot, unless you are from some very recognized colleges around the world, which obviously we are not, because we came straight from a plane. You know, so that's how we landed. So I think that's the challenge. So that's why professional certifications. All right. So that's where I am. I'll probably give the phone. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, still in the online mode.
I'm still in the online mode to Rizwan to take it further. I think we'll have to stop. But if there's any questions, I'm right outside. Thank you.
Before we head to the, I hope you liked the web seminar. It was informative. We have a couple of students joined in here who have gone through the PMP certification, and if someone is going through the examination or preparing, I would like to invite Ms. Rima Menon, who is in this industry, who was our student, for PMP certification and have cleared the examination. So she will share certain insights about the exam, and then we will help you with what are the updates for the attendees over here. Yeah, Rima, please join. You know, Mike?
Yeah, my voice is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
I hope I'm audible. I'm sorry, I'm just sick because of the flood. Whatever. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rima, and I work for Khatib Alami as a planning engineer. I'm working for the Mac Lagoons project right now in the infrastructure division. So I came to Red Learning not knowing what PMP was. Actually, the thing is that my boss, he told that you cannot be a construction professional if you're not a certified PMP. So that's when it got stuck to me and my colleagues that we thought, okay, we need to prove him wrong at some point of time. And that's when we thought, okay, we'll take up PMP and see, where it goes. So one person took, second person took, and then when we all helped each other, with the PMP, that's when I thought, okay, I want to learn the concept instead of just mugging up and sitting for the exams. And that's when I came to Red Learning, and at that time it was just after COVID, so it was all online. And that's when I met Mr. Najmul, and it was an online session, 8 classes, but it was one of the best classes I've ever taken in my life because it was very conceptual, including now the concepts are still rooted in my mind because of how he explained it to me. And I took up the course in 2022 and I cleared it last year in March 2023. And I got only, I asked for 2 weeks leave from my company, but they gave me 10 days, and in that I was asked to work for 3 days. So I just got about 5-6 days to prepare. But because of this knowledge that he has given, it was really helpful. I suggest all of you, if you could be a part of Najmul's teaching, it will really help. And because of that certification, I was working for fit out industry as well. And from there I came back to infrastructure. I was working as an operation manager in my previous company. And when I came back to planning and the consultant, it really PMP upped my skill, and it increased my salary to almost double of my previous salary. So I think it has really helped me in the long run. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you to
Rima.
Red
Thank you for
Learning.
your-
Thank you.
thank you for your contribution.
Actually, I've only met these people online, and today I met them after 2-3 years
Yes.
of meeting only face to face or thing.
And many less people know that she's also an influencer.
No, I
So
think you
follow
must
her
have
page,
seen me
maybe you can
taking
promote her
videos.
page
I think
as-
you must have seen me taking me videos. I'm actually a motherhood blogger as well, so that is my after duty hours what I do to refresh myself. But yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn also, Rima Menon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima.
Thank
I think I have another announcement, a very surprising announcement.
Yes. yes.
See,
Atif.
so what's happened is he's from PMI, UAE chapter. He was supposed to come in the morning, but he did not show up. And the reason was he was giving his CP exam. And he passed.
Hey.
I think but one correction that I have to make, that's he did it proctor. He was a
Okay,
pen.
so
So the
I
CP
would
exam
suggest if it is equal for you to do it proctored or in a training center, if it doesn't make too much of a difference, go for the training center.
was
in
something wrong with it?
Because in the proctored one, you'll have to log in one day before just to do your testing of the system, and then when you go for the exam itself, that is null and void and you have to do it all over again. So if it doesn't make too much of a difference, for me it was different because I live around 1 hour outside of Dubai. So I wanted to do it in my own comfortable setting, so I did it in a proctored session. But if you're within the city, within Dubai, within Abu Dhabi, go for the training center. But the official announcement will be in 5 days, but I saw the screenshot that I'm successful.
He has something very concerning to say also, which I should. He told me we will be discussing that.
Najmul might have mentioned already that there's a weightage of how the exam will be divided into. So their interfaces and contracts management will take more than what it's mentioned. So be very clear and be very clear on the concepts. Don't worry about what is there. Don't worry about memorizing stuff or the names of the tools, whatever they are. Understand what are the inputs to a certain subset and what are the outcomes of it. So if you know the concepts, if you're in the industry, it will be relatively easier for you. But it's a good foundation for everyone. And I would encourage all of you, if you're here just to get the knowledge session, regardless you're a PMP or not, PMI-CP is a foundational course for all construction professionals.
Did you go through the e-learning courses?
Yes, I went through the e-learning courses and they are enough, but still you need to know the relative construction field experience and those
Did you do
attributes.
4 micro certifications or what?
One,
One sir, Microsoft. The communication.
because it changed in February.
Correct, it changes.
So earlier you had to do another 2 for materials, for
4
technology.
Materials and management.
MMOs for technology, I believe. Yeah. But good luck with everyone, and if you guys have any questions, do ask Najm,
I think
ask
the
Red
last
Learning,
few-
come to us.
Please, you can announce your PMI.
Next Sunday is our annual general meeting for the PMI members. Even Red Learning, they can share the link with you. If you guys are PMI members already, it's free of cost. But I would invite all of you to come to this once in a year opportunity to network, to learn, and to be in touch with the industry. We have people coming in from Saudi, from Qatar, from Bahrain, and this is the annual general meeting. Last year we held it in January, February. Normally we hold it in the first quarter, but this year because of Ramadan we had to delay it by an extra 1 month. So you guys are all welcome to join us on the 5th of May. The venue is one and only Resort Royal Mirage in Dubai Marina, and you guys can get. I think Rizwan or Red Learning can share the link for you guys to register as well.
Yeah,
So good luck
it's
on
free
the
for
events.
members, is it?
It's free for members. It's discounted for like if you have a PMI certification number or PMI member, or if you're not a chapter member, you can still come. Welcome.